The Lagos Third Mainland Bridge was for 3 days shut down to enable experts undergo investigative maintenance tests. The closure was to enable the contractors assess the true state of the bridge, after which works would commence by the end of the year. How did it go, and what are the preliminary findings? This will be a focus on Panorama coming to you from the Lagos Network Center. But first, the stories making headlines. I'm Elizabeth Omori. Stay with us. We'll be right back shortly. President Muhammadu Buhari has expressed optimism that the dairy farming initiative being championed by Denmark and the government of Kaduna State can be replicated across Nigeria. The farmer-herder conflicts will be curbed effectively. This was while granting audience to the outgoing Danish ambassador to Nigeria, who paid him a farewell visit. State House correspondent Adamu Sambu reports.
President Muhammadu Buhari is convinced that when dairy farms become economically viable, the herders will realize its productive considerations and stay in one place. This, he said, will save the country from the perennial problem of clashes between farmers and herders met worse by population explosion. Explaining the concept of dairy farming, Ambassador Getaman said the plan is to have 1,000 families of herdsmen with 12,000 heads of cattle in one location. That small community, he said, will have the required veterinary services, schools for children, and a Danish company will buy off the milk. Dairy farming, the envoy explained, is commercially viable as it yields better meat, saying, however, that it is not exactly the same thing as ranching. Ambassador Getaman, who spent 4 years in Nigeria, is proceeding on retirement after 40 years in the service of his country. From the State House, Adamu Sambo, NTA News.
President of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, has spoken on the need for African countries to invest more in the education of their citizens as one of the surest ways of strengthening the institutions of government. He said at this at the annual General Conference of the Nigerian Bar Association, where he was the keynote speaker. Femi Okelwo reports.
The conference, which is Transition, Transformation and Sustainable Institutions, President Nana Akufo-Addo said while it may not be right to dictate solutions to various countries' problems, education has been proved to be a problem solver regardless of locations. He said now that African countries are all united in their quest to strengthen their political, economic, social, and security institutions, a policy of mass education for their citizenry should be a veritable starting point.
Freedom and the principles of democratic accountability are strengthening the determination of Africans to build a new Africa that is neither pawn nor victim of the global order.
On the clamor for the rule of law, he called on the government and lawyers in particular to instill in their citizenry the need to embrace liberty and duty as behaviors that must go together.
This can be Africa's century. We can claim it if we believe in ourselves. It is time to hear the voice of the lawyers. It is time to feel their presence, not by dragging on cases interminably and using technical ruses to make gains.
Emir of Kano, Muhammadu Sanusi II, after the address, engaged in a conversation with the Ghanaian president on areas of mutual benefit between Nigeria and Ghana and as it relates to their interactions with industrialized countries. The 2018 Annual General Conference of the Nigerian Bar Association is the 58th edition of the conference. Femi Okelwo.
British Prime Minister Theresa May is expected to visit Africa for the first time since becoming Prime Minister in 2016. Mrs. May would visit South Africa on Tuesday before Nigeria and Kenya as part of trade mission aimed at boosting post-Brexit fortunes and strengthening its global partnership. Security issues will also feature on her agenda as she's expected to discuss the threat of Boko Haram in Nigeria and the role of British troops based in Kenya helping countries fight Al-Shabaab militants in Somalia. Mrs. May will be accompanied by our three Commonwealth countries, a 29-man business delegation, and will meet President Muhammadu Buhari in Abuja on Wednesday before meeting victims of modern-day slavery. Nigeria is set to partner with the British Museum in London for the preservation and conservation of cultural artifacts and objects of Nigerian origin. This was disclosed by the Director of British Museum, Hartwig Fisher, during a facility tour of the National Commission for Museums and Monuments in Onikon, Lagos. Visit of the Director of British Museum, the management of the National Commission for Museums and Monuments says is apt following efforts by the federal government to reposition activities at the museums across the country for posterity. The Director of British Museum, who was impressed by the priceless pieces, speaks on the proposed collaboration.
And it's wonderful to see the collections, to see the museum, to meet colleagues and hear about their projects and learn from them and see how this museum presents its collections and the stories it tells about the Nigerian nation.
Acting Director General of the National Commission for Museums and Monuments, while commending the efforts of the British government, stated that such collaborative effort will assist in preventing extinction of cultures and traditions.
One of the reasons why they have actually visited is to look at our facilities and see which of them are decaying and which of them needs to be uplifted in terms of standard and grade. And they will now help us either by way of funding or bringing the technical expertise.
The British delegation was exposed to the knock objects, royal regalia, war weapons, and other cultural objects on preservation. The United Nations is calling for stronger collective drive to ensure the actualization of all the sustainable development goals by countries of the world. United Nations Deputy Secretary General Nigeria's Amina Mohammed was speaking at the opening ceremony of the 28th World Water Week in Stockholm, Sweden. Musbah Damwahab reports.
The global water family gathers here once again, searching for how to ensure life for all, since it is already established and agreed upon that water is life. And with the theme, water, ecosystems and human development, they are also concerned about good atmosphere for the lives to live in. In that quest, the unfavorable statistics in water and sanitation sector, they say, must be overturned, and fast too. United Nations Secretary General Amina Mohammed commends the quest for nature-based solution to the common challenge. The former Nigeria's Minister of Environment cited the shrinking Lake Chad and the oil spill pollution in Niger Delta, Nigeria, as examples of water management challenge.
Ladies and gentlemen, funding our common ground is really important and key. It's a collective responsibility to do it right, and it's essential that we try to do this. We need to mobilize every sector of the society that would empower our girls, our women, our young people to take the lead.
We need to pay far more attention to our water resources and realize that the past is no longer a good guide to the future.
I hope that this week will help the global community to get closer to the goal of a sustainable world.
This theme is very relevant to us in Nigeria when you consider our human activities with regards to the water bodies in Nigeria. You will know that a lot of our waters are highly polluted as a result of human activities. And this is exactly what we are here to find common solutions.
Two professors, Bruce Rickman and Mark Van Ludrecht, were named the 2018 Stockholm Water Prize laureate for revolutionizing water and wastewater treatment. From Stockholm, Sweden, Musbah Damwahab, NTA News.
The Joint Committee on Independent National Electoral Commission has adopted 143.5 billion naira as supplementary budget for the 2019 general elections, as submitted by President Muhammadu Buhari. National Assembly correspondent Ignatius Nkwo reports.
Happiness and prosperity of Nigeria, amen.
The National Assembly Joint Committee on INEC has held 3 meetings before this one, all on the consideration of the 2019 general election budget. At the first meeting, INEC Chairman Professor Mahmood Yakubu presented 189.2 billion naira, same amount requested by President Muhammadu Buhari. Mr. President requested that 143.5 billion naira be considered in the 2018 supplementary budget and the remaining 45.6 billion to come in the 2019 budget. However, INEC prayed that it would have loved that all the amounts be considered in the 2018 supplementary budget in view of the exigencies of election matters. And that has been a major challenge for the committee. After a closed-door session at this meeting, the committee decided on the amounts to be approved.
The Joint Committee has sat and has deliberated the position to adopt the 143 billion as presented by Mr. President. And at this point, Mr. President. So therefore, INEC has an opportunity to reprioritize, and this committee will be ready to receive their report.
The committee explained that the remaining 45.6 billion naira will have to come thereafter, as proposed by Mr. President from the National Assembly, Nations, NTA News.
Free flow of traffic has returned to the 3rd Mainland Bridge on Monday after it was opened to the public on Sunday evening. Some road users say they expect a better contingency plan by the authorities when maintenance on the bridge commences in December. Paul Omokago tells us more.
The usual free flow of traffic on the 3rd Mainland Bridge is back after the bridge was opened to traffic following the completion of the integrity test on the bridge. The opening of the 3rd Mainland Bridge is a big relief to motorists and other road users in Lagos. The bridge was closed to traffic for 3 days for integrity test. Federal Controller of Works, Adedamola Kuti, who briefed the media prior to the opening of the bridge, says repair works will follow after analysis of the test result.
The work will actually start when the level of water will have gone down, because this is the peak of the rainy season and the thing is very high.
It just demonstrates what is possible when the different organs and agencies of government work together.
Meanwhile, a cross-section of the Lagos motoring public are of the view that the entire bridge should not be closed when proper work on the bridge commences later in the year.
It was uncomfortable for every one of us, but now they repaired, it's okay.
Yes, and they open now?
It's okay as they open the bridge now because everybody was passing, they are going freely.
By the time they will start the repairing, I think one side should be closed, while the other side should be to and fro.
Yeah, once we are replacing the expansion joints, it's going to be partial closure. We are only going to close sections of the bridge.
Traffic generally is smooth on the entire stretch of the 3rd Mainland Bridge and adjoining roads. In Lagos, Paul Omukago, NTA News.
To speak further on the maintenance investigative test carried out on the 3rd Mainland Bridge, I have with me in the studio the Federal Controller of Works, Federal Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Engineer Adedamola Kuti. It's nice to have you in our studio.
Thank you very much.
All right, could you tell us what informed the integrity test on the bridge?
Yeah, well, it's just a normal maintenance test. Like once you have any infrastructure, maintenance is a continuous thing. You don't have to wait till any calamity befalls you before you can carry out your test. As a matter of fact, the last maintenance test, investigative test we carried out on this bridge was in the year 2008. And we felt it would be necessary for us because we cannot use the result of 2008 in 2018. Yes. Hence the investigative test.
Okay, so what does this test entails?
Yeah, it's a kind of a static and dynamic test, just to determine the suitability of some of these expansion joints on the bridge.
Okay.
And you see, with the result coming up, whichever of the expansion joints that is bad will be replaced appropriately.
So, what were the test actions taken and steps taken before, during, and after to ensure that the test was carried out without any hitch?
Yeah, thank you very much. During that period, before the closure, before that temporary closure, we held a series of meetings with stakeholders and with traffic officers, and some of the alternative routes were actually identified. And we ensured that some of these alternative routes were fixed, to minimize stress on the road users. Okay. And so some of them were fixed before we temporarily closed the bridge. Because so that one was able to cushion down the effect of the traffic.
Because we noticed there was actually no serious traffic.
Exactly. And in addition to that, it was the test was carried out just within that period, that week of Salah. And then, of course, it was on a weekend. Apart from Friday, that was a working day, it was on a weekend. So it was only Friday that, that created a bit of challenges for us. But I think the traffic officers were able to manage the situation.
Okay, manage the situation. Okay, what were the preliminary findings?
For now, the tests have been concluded, and the results will be analyzed. The results are not yet out. It will be out maybe in the month of September, maybe towards the month of September. The results will be out.
Okay.
And it will be followed immediately with maintenance repairs.
Okay. All right, I would like to draw your attention to the other bridges carrying unintended weights. What is your agency doing about this?
Yeah. The issue is that, like I said, maintenance is a continuous thing.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, it's just that Third Mainland Bridge has, brought up a lot of noise and is expected because it's a major link between the island and the mainland. And as I speak with you, we are having maintenance work on some other bridges in Lagos. Coconut Bridge at Apapa is being maintained at continuous thing. We continue all our roads. The ones that we need to carry out, we carry out the test, and that is it.
Okay. All right, I would like to divert your attention a little. Let's talk about the vehicles, the heavy vehicles on the bridges. What's your take about them, and what is your agency doing?
Yeah.
Because if you're carrying out a test on each of the bridges, it's still the same thing, they're still there.
No, the issue is that, you see, some of these trucks, articulated trucks on our bridges,
yes,
we are not, they are not expected to be there.
Yes.
It constitutes a very high degree of abuse. And those trucks are just adding to the dead load of the bridge. We just hope that very soon we'll be able to move them out of that place. We've already informed the stakeholders and some of these unions to move all their trucks off the bridge, off these bridges, because they are not expected to be there. They create a lot of problems for us, and we hope they will listen to us in good time and ensure that you see, some of these bridges have been designed in such a way that, you see, we are still checking them regularly to ensure that they are still stable for use. But for us, we are ensuring that some of these trucks, we want to ensure that they get off the roads, the bridges.
Okay. You actually said by December that another repair work will commence on the bridge, the third minute, and it will be closed partially. So what are the steps taken now to ensure that Lagosians don't suffer?
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, what we did last weekend was just to carry out investigative tests. Now it will be followed up with that maintenance. The repair works will follow immediately once the results are released. And once we start our maintenance work, we only need to close the bridge partially. Okay. It will no longer be total closure like what we experienced. So it will just be partial closure. You only close the section of the bridge where you are working. And of course, the maintenance work is also going to involve some underwater repairs.
Okay.
When we go into the water to carry out, to effect some repairs, during that period, the bridge will still be open.
Okay.
There will be no need to close down the Third Mainland Bridge. So, but whichever way, we're on top of the situation. Once we are ready to close it partially, the stakeholders are there, the traffic officers will be there to ensure smooth traffic, free flow of traffic.
All right, Engineer Adedamola, thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me. Thank you.
You're still watching Panorama, coming to you from the Lagos Network Center. More reports, stay with us.
Hear the call of change. Stand up, Nigeria. Change is here and it's going to stay. Change begins with you. Oh yeah, make we go. Go to so let the change begin from within. Look at you, yeah. Oh get roller. Change begins with you and me.
Us have basic responsibility to our dear country as defined by the terms of their license. Therefore, the current phenomenon of hate speech, fake news, and all other unprofessional manners of broadcasting should be avoided.
Malam Ishak